2007 Refrigeration Update. Embraco Service Compressors. Embraco compressors are currently being substituted for Tecumseh OEM compressors. New instruction sheets and tubing kits are being developed and will be added to service compressors. Replacing a Tecumseh with an Embraco. Embraco Service Compressor. All compressor stubs are 5/16 of an inch OD. Connect tubing is indicated. 1/4 inch OD condenser tube slips into compressor discharge port. Use a 4-inch piece of 1/4 inch OD copper tubing for the process stub. Swage both ends of the 6-inch long piece of 5/16 inch copper tubing and use to connect the suction line to the compressor suction port. Tubing kit and instruction sheets are being developed and will be added fourth quarter 2007. Beginning in the fourth quarter of 2007, Embraco compressors will be OEM compressor for all ARP production. New Embraco Mini. Beginning in the fourth quarter of 2007, Embraco compressors will be used on all ARP production refrigerators. New mini compressor will reduce energy consumption. JennAir Jade SXSs. Evaporator drain pan freeze-up. Follow all steps outlined in Technical Bulletin TDR 0061B. Service Bulletin TDR 0061B continued. Make sure drain tube is installed as indicated. Drain pan issue. A crease or rough surface on the pan will cause water to puddle. Any water remaining after the defrost cycle freezes. If the ice is not completely thawed on subsequent defrosts, the ice will continue to build. Eventually, the ice buildup gets serious enough to cause noise complaints from water hitting the evaporator fan blade. When the defrost water overflows over the drain pan, it will run down the back wall. Eventually, the ice buildup will cause a no cooling complaint. If the pan is defrosted, the ice buildup can occur in as little as 30 days. Probable problem area. A kit is currently on test to add addition heat to the drain area. Possible fix? The kit will have a larger drain hole and foil tape added to the drain area. Additional tape is added to the top side of the drain pan. Bottom mount freezer drawer handle. New door handles and clips are now available for BM freezer drawers. Order replacement handles by model number. There have been customer complaints of noise when the Invensis damper door opens. Noise can be compared to someone running their fingernails across a chalkboard. A new EMZ damper is being used on current production. The EMZ damper will not retrofit the Invensis damper. Research into developing a kit using the EMZ to replace the Invensis damper is being conducted. T-bracket easy disassembly. Beginning with fourth quarter production, a redesigned T-bracket will be used on bottom mount freezer refrigerators. The new design will make it much easier to remove and install the freezer drawer. Pull drawer open. Loosen door screws. Screws do not have to be removed completely. Lift door upward and remove. T-bracket easy assembly. Assembly steps. Align top screws and slots. Pull door brackets outward to position bottom screws. Tighten 4 screws. Wiring harness change. Beginning on fourth quarter production, a new wiring harness, power cord, and protective sheath will be used on all Amana produced units. AP number change will take place for all bottom mounts but not SXSs. If a power cord is ordered for a side-by-side, a kit will be shipped that consists of a power cord, shroud, and protective sheath. Waterline reservoir freeze-up, bottom mount freezers. Water reservoir or waterline freeze-ups can occur on some bottom mount freezers. The cause of the freeze-up can be attributed to operating the refrigerator at low temperature, infrequent door openings, or a minimal water usage. Refer to Technical Bulletin TDR 0059B for all non-Iceland bottom-mount refrigerators except 25 cubic foot models. For 25 cubic foot bottom-mount refrigerators, use Water Reservoir Antifreeze Kit PNW 101-30482. Waterline Water Reservoir Freezing 25 cubic foot bottom-mount refrigerator. For 25 cubic foot bottom-mount refrigerators, use Water Reservoir Antifreeze Kit PNW 101-30482. Installation Guide 25 cubic foot bottom-mount refrigerators. Verify correct operating temperatures. To determine if the water reservoir or water line is frozen, check the operation of the dispenser. Remove shelving, drawers, and crisper cover to access water reservoir. Remove two 1/4 inch hex head screws. Carefully pull the top of the water reservoir away from the rear wall of the cabinet. Attach the foam strip to the insulation block. Firmly attach foam insulation to block. Align the water reservoir to the block. Attach the reservoir to the block. Attach the reservoir and block to the cabinet using two 1 1/4 inch long hex head screws supplied. Tighten the screws. Install the crisper cover. Make sure the foam gasket is sealing properly. Test water dispenser operation. Check water line connection for leaks. Install drawers and shelving. The power supply on the high voltage board may fail, resulting in dispenser door continually opening and closing. Eventually, the board will fail completely, which results in no cooling. Order a new high voltage board. Unplug power cord. Remove panel. Remove clear protective cover. Unplug harnesses and depress catches. Make sure that you're not carrying a static charge. Touch a known earth ground prior to handling any solid-state control board. Unplug harnesses and depress catches. Slide old board out to the left and install new board. Reassemble components. Enter refrigerator code into the new board diagnostics and check operation. Code is located on the model number plate. Failure to enter the correct code will result in a recall. New Maytag Iceland 22 cubic foot refrigerator, 4th quarter, 2007. Propose new display. Propose new display. The verbiage under the on-off switch will state, "Power off cooling system, press 3 seconds." With the unit in the off position, a red LED above the pad will illuminate and only the interior lights will function. The cooling on-off key will turn the cooling system off-on as described below. When turning the cooling system off, all keypad LEDs will turn off. The 7-segment LED display will turn off and a double beep will sound upon implementation. The red LED associated with the cooling on-off switch will turn on. Any key press, not including the cooling on-off key, will be ignored and an error beep given. The cooling on-off LED will also flash in such instances. In the off state, all cooling functions, compressor, fans, and damper operation, as well as defrost operations, will be turned off. This will include any periodic damper cycling functions. Water dispense operations will not be permitted according to the general specifications. Entry into the service mode, personality programming mode, and sales mode will be permitted. Access to forced defrost and the user preference menu will be denied. To turn the cooling system back on, press the cooling on-off key. No press and hold is required to turn the system back on. No sound is generated for this event, and the associated LED will turn off. The unit will turn on and return to the last saved set points. Any features that were previously enabled will become active, except for the max cool and Sabbath functions. The Sabbath and max cool functions will be canceled upon entering the cooling on-off mode. Prior turning off the UI, the current user settings will be stored in EEPROM to be able to recover the customer settings in case of an electrical reset. Certain text or phrases must be shown on the keyboard. This includes cooling on-off, which per UL standards describes the loads which will be turned off by that switch. The phrase also lets the customer know that this button will turn the unit back on. Press for 3 seconds, or press and hold for 3 seconds, or any similar variation must also be placed on the graphics to indicate to the customer that the button must be pressed for a minimum of 3 seconds before feature activation. Humidity control switch. The humidity control switch turns on the mullion heater located on the divider. A red LED illuminates indicating the heater is on. The refrigerator is designed to optimally operate in most home environments. In some demographics, the refrigerator may not be able to prevent moisture from developing in the door mullion area. The homeowner can turn on the mullion heater with this feature. The corresponding LED will turn on, indicating that the feature is active, mullion heater on. The heater will then cycle with the compressor. Pressing the key again will turn off this feature as well as the associated status LED. Turning the heater off will save energy. There are only 2 states associated with this switch, on and off. However, in the on state, there are 2 modes of operation. The first mode is as described above. The mullion heater will cycle with the compressor. The second mode is on 100% of the time. Changing to this mode can only be done through the service mode. After this change, pressing this key will still toggle the feature on and off, but the heater will be on 100% when feature is active. The initial state of this feature will be off. The default on mode is the heater cycling with the compressor. The state of the switch and mode will need to be retained in non-volatile memory. New Gen Air Iceland models 4th quarter 2007 will be available in the new oiled bronze finish. Features and changes diagram. Major changes affecting service. Embraco compressors replace Tecumseh. Whirlpool modular ice maker scheduled to replace Mid-South Compact. Humidity pad added to control mullion heater. On-off pad added to control. Exterior freezer drawer panel secured with T-bracket makes it much easier to remove. Gen Air display is different than Maytag models, but diagnostics are the same. Mid-South ice makers used on current production Iceland refrigerators. Field reports indicate a cube size or overfilling problem with the Mid-South ice maker used in Iceland refrigerators. Double fill. Testing has confirmed that the ice maker can fill twice, causing a variety of different complaints. Double fill cubes can lead to the following issues: harvesting problems, slows ice production; dispensing problems, grinding noise, jammed auger; small cube jams from subsequent harvest of minnow cubes, melted from multiple heat cycles. Example: double fill cubes can be up to 50% larger than normal size cubes. Mid-South ice makers, Iceland refrigerators. Mid-South minimum cycle time fix for double fills. Minimum cycle time will be 60 minutes. Production change will require a new ice maker harness and main cabinet harness, new main control, and personality. Initial introduction to occur on the P number model launch, 20 and 25 cubic foot, beginning September 2007. The 33-inch Iceland introduction scheduled for fourth quarter will also incorporate the fix. What is changing? No change to ice maker. New inner icebox wiring harness. New main control board. New cabinet harness. Freeze time will be approximately 60 minutes. Service considerations. For new P-number models, the new main control board will be used for service. Serial plate calls out new personality. New main control does not have legacy personalities. For legacy P-number models, the minimum cycle time fix is not available. The legacy main control will be used for service. Serial plate calls out personality. Legacy personality codes begin with 0. New model codes begin with 1. Bottom mount refrigerators, dryer replacement. Protect the floor when moving refrigerator. Unplug the refrigerator. Recover the refrigerant charge. Use a fire retardant blanket when brazing. Tubing identification. Additional cap tube available in cabinet. Insert a 12-inch length of small diameter rod into the cabinet around the circumference of the cap tube several times to release the cap tube. Probe against the back of the cabinet and away from the freezer liner. Pull the cap tube straight down. Pull the cap tube out 6 to 8 inches. Remove the dryer from the machine compartment and cut in half. Use a receptacle to catch the drying agent. Heat and remove the dryer inlet tube. Heat and remove the cap tube. Clean and prepare the heat loop tube and cap tube for dryer installation. Insert the cap tube into the dryer until it contacts the dryer screen. Mark the cap tube where it meets the dryer outlet tube. Pull the cap tube back out a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch and braze the connection. Incorrect cap tube installation. If the cap tube is installed against the screen, it will cause a restriction. Use permagum to seal around the heat exchanger. Service dryer with ultraviolet dry pellet embedded. LaPorte should have the new dryer in by August 15th. Whirlpool will use the current PN 231-7845. This can be used on built-in products. PN 438-7019 will continue for 50-pound ice machines, non-UV dye. What's inside? A small pellet filled with dye is embedded inside the drying agent between two dryer filters. How it works. Oil traveling with the refrigerant in the system picks up the dye from the pellet and circulates it throughout the system. If a leak is present, the oil and ultraviolet dye will be deposited at the opening, and it can be seen using a special light and glasses. What's needed to see the dye? Dye dryer procedures. Check for leaks using the approved light and goggles. Dye can show up in as little as 20 minutes of system runtime. It may take much longer depending on conditions. Reduce ambient light if possible. Use inspection mirror. Check the compressor, evaporator, and condenser, and all tubing from all sides. Leaks can be anywhere. The dye will look fluorescent yellow or yellow-green when viewed using the light and glasses. What a leak looks like. Pinhole leak on top of the evaporator. Pinhole leak evaporator tubing, lowest run of evaporator. Joint leak in the evaporator tubing, SXS refrigerator. Drip of oil at the first compressor discharge tube. Leak at the bottom of the condenser behind the condenser fan. Many small pinhole leaks in the line to the Yoder loop. Dye dryer review. We assume that most of these are known, but we must be sure. The dye is carried in the oil, so that's why oil must leak to get the glow. 99.9%, almost all leaks are repairable. Inaccessible leaks would be any tubing within the foam, such as the heat loop or heat exchanger. There are no joints on tubes in the foam. Where are most leaks found? 99.9% are at joints or on exposed tubing that got damaged. KitchenAid under-counter refrigeration products. Some wine coolers and beverage centers have had no display or intermittent display. Wiring diagram, WC. Check for 12-volt AC output from the transformer. The display only displays. It has nothing to do with temperature management. Separator connections. Wine cellar has one connector. Beverage center has two. Remove the lower rack to access the separator at the rear wall. The beverage center has the second connector to the top thermistor. Check the 12-volt AC. Error codes. Display shows -4 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit potential range. Normal operating display is 32 to 66 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 to 19C. ER. Thermistor sensing greater than 99 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees C, or less than -23 degrees Fahrenheit, -30 degrees C. High. Thermistor sensor 87 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit, or 30.5 to 36.7 degrees C. Low. Thermistor sensing -5 to -22 degrees Fahrenheit, 20.5 to 30 degrees C. E1. Open in thermistor circuit. IDI bucket difficult to remove. Problem. The customer cannot remove the ice bucket. Cause. The hex shaft and the 12-point coupler can bind when using crushed ice. This prevents the ice bucket from being easily removed from the door. Correction. Engineering is looking at changing the tolerances or angles of the shaft coupler to prevent binding. For now, the customer can usually get the ice bucket off if they switch back to cubed for a few seconds before attempting to remove it from the door. Central Park refrigerator. The refrigerator will be shipped with a cap over the connector on the top of the freezer door. 14-volt DC output pins. Power supply board location. 120-volt AC is rectified and regulated to achieve a 14-volt DC 13 to 15-watt capability output. Central Park refrigerator, 2 separate wire harnesses enter the bottom of the door. This refrigerator is a fast fill and has a larger hinge pin. But with the water line and existing harness, there was no room for the 2 additional wires. While I don't recommend telling the techs, the 2 14-volt DC wires are foamed into the door. Electronic controls. Whenever an electronic control is suspected to be the cause of a product failure, before replacing the control, disconnect and then reconnect all of the wiring harness connectors to ensure proper electrical contact.